Hey, everybody. Uh, Apparently nobody can talk back to us, which is good. You can't
That's right.
talk back to us. But if you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the chat or the question box, and I'll be monitoring them kind of throughout um, the presentation. So I wanted to thank everybody for joining us. I think that we might still have a few people coming in the next minute or two.
Mhm.
Um, but for those of you that don't know, well, all of you know at least one of us, Debbie or I, but maybe not everybody knows both of us. So I'm Deb Clark, and on my screen, Debbie Kelly is on the far left. And we're the co-owners of Premier Travel Planners. We're a boutique travel agency here in Denver. And I think that we've planned a trip for most everybody that's on the call. And if we haven't, we hope to get to one day soon. And we kind of hope to be traveling one day soon.
That's right.
Um, let's see. Oh, so obviously, we're here to learn about river cruising. We're really grateful to have Richard Bravo here. He is our sales rep with AmaWaterways, and Ama is a company that both Debbie and I have sailed with, and we love them. They're also one of our preferred suppliers, and what that means is that we have uh, Richard and everybody else on speed dial in case anything were to ever go wrong on your trip, which what we really like about AMA is things rarely go wrong unless it's something completely out of anybody's control. So yeah, I think that that's it. Let's see, it's just a couple minutes past 4:30. And it looks like maybe not everybody that signed up is on yet, but I think that in to be respectful of everybody's time, we'll go ahead and get started. So
Wonderful.
Richard, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Sure. Debbie, did you want to share anything before we get rolling at all, or?
No, I let Deb do all the talking. I'll chime in as needed during the presentation, and then when we get to
Sounds
my,
good.
I'll talk a little bit more. But we're so happy that people joined us today. Thank you very much. We're excited.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. I know there's a lot of things that you could be doing instead of hopping on another virtual meeting or virtual presentation, but hopefully this is going to be inspiring for you. Just kind of share some things about river cruising today. There's a lot that we want to cram into this short period of time. We'll try not to extend it too long necessarily, but just to let you know, of course, we're going to be talking about river cruising, more specifically what makes river cruising special with AmaWaterways. I'll kind of do a destination overview of all the different places that we travel to. We're on 3 continents, over 33 different itineraries, you know, a lot of different choices to choose from, different seasons, different themes. So I'll be covering some of those things. I also want to share a little bit about the state of the business to let you know how we operated last year, what things that we did, what things we put in place to really ensure that we protect the experience that our guests have come to know with AmaWaterways, but also certainly to ensure the safety of all of our guests and all of our crews. So I'll talk about that. In addition to those things that really distinguish us from other river cruise peers in the industry too, because there are some wonderful products out there. I think Deb and Debbie would have to test that as well. But there is a reason that AmaWaterways has won more awards than any other cruise line. So I really want to highlight some of those things for you. I want to also talk about briefly a new ship that debuted in April of 2019 called the Ama Magna. It's the largest river cruise ship on the waters today. And then just kind of go over a couple of highlights on 2 of our most popular rivers, which are going to be the Rhine and the Danube. But just moving through here, I'm actually going to hop off camera for a bit just so you can fully look at the presentation. Then I'll hop on at the very end here. There we go. But I love this slide right here, and I love what it says. You know, oceans take you to countries, rivers take you through them. Coupled with this picture, again, this world, rather especially if you haven't taken a river cruise before, you may kind of put river cruising in the same category as ocean cruising. And please don't misunderstand me. I love ocean cruising. I've done a number of ocean cruises myself, but it's really quite different. I always tell people the similarities go about as far as the fact that you unpack once, but beyond that, it's really quite different. You're on calm waters. You don't got to worry about getting seasick. You are within international water, or I'm sorry, within country limits the entire time. So you're never on international waters. and you got land on both sides at all times. So you're always going to have amazing scenery. If you've ever taken an ocean cruise, there's something that they refer to as sea days, where you're kind of out at sea, and really that's kind of all you're looking at, and it's beautiful. But with AmaWaterways, we like to say that a sea day is spelled S-E-E, because you are seeing beautiful things, from amazing fairy tale castles to steep hillside vineyards, these amazing little rural villages that we're passing by. So lots to see. The other part that I'll mention is that, unlike some of the ocean cruises that were really designed to also be a part of the destination in addition to the destination that you're visiting, not the case with river cruising, certainly not with AmaWaterways. We are taking you to and through the destination, and the river cruise is really just your luxury floating hotel with great amenities and features on board, excellent service, amazing cuisine. So I'll really look to highlight some of those things that I pushed to the presentation. But I wanted to spend a moment just to talk about some things that I think a lot of people have questions on. One of them is, what's the stability of these companies that you're sharing with us? What's their viability? AmaWaterways is a debt-free company. We have no debt. In fact, the list of ships that you see off to the right here, including those top three, the Ama Lucia, the Ama Dalia, and the Ama Siena, these are ships that are actually set for delivery this year, that are already completely paid in full. So again, we carry no debt, and that's been by design. We never want to be in a position where unforeseen things would happen and we would completely have to halt service and lay off a lot of our employees. We've also partnered with some other companies, if you're familiar with Certares Group, Rothschild Group, Peugeot family, amongst some others. So very strong financial backers that we partner with. This little red logo down to the lower left of the screen here that says Berlitz, this is a company that actually goes out and rates different cruise experiences. They've been doing ocean cruises for a number of years. They started doing river cruises maybe about 4 years ago, but they go on as mystery shoppers, so no one is ever privy to the fact that these folks are going to be on board to give them extra attention. When they get off from their experience, they're writing about the cuisine, they're writing about the shore tours, writing about the accommodations, just the overall service amongst a number of things. So you can see how small our fleet is right here. With our small fleet, 10 of our ships actually made the top 15. And to put that into perspective, there's probably about 335 river cruise ships on the water right now. So you can see how important that is that we took all those, so many of those top spots rather. The other part that I'll mention is Disney. Disney has their ocean cruise product, but they also have some river cruise products. They don't own their own ships though, and they've opted to charter AmaWaterways ships. So once again, I think it really just speaks to the overall service and level standards that we have on board. Just to give a brief overview of all the different places that we travel to, there's a lot here. We could spend all day talking about these destinations, but I want to start with an overview on our exotic programs. So if we look over at Egypt, Asia, and Africa, I'll start by talking about Africa first. Africa, by the way, this is a very popular program. If you're thinking of doing this, we sail on the beautiful Chobe River, and we actually do a 4-night amazing luxury safari cruise, all suite balcony ships on the Zambezi Queen. But you don't want to go all the way down to Africa to do this experience just for 4 nights. So we've added a number of different pre and post options that you can include. You can add a gorilla trek in Rwanda. You can do a safari. You can spend additional time down in Johannesburg. You can take an old Rovo steam train and then enjoy some time at Victoria Falls. So lots of things you can do there to expand that all the way up to 18 nights. So certainly consider that. And you want to plan at least, I would say minimum 15 months, but probably better to plan a good 18 months in advance for this. The Mekong River, also very popular. This one, I would say you probably want to plan close to that in advance. Certainly that 15-month time frame would be good for you. But this is a really nice 7-night cruise, and we operate basically northbound and upbound and upstream. So we have them, one of them is called the Riches of the Mekong, and the other one is called the Charms of the Mekong. But once again, if you're traveling to this area, you probably want to do more than just a 7-night stay there. We've got a number of optionals that you can include. If you want some additional time in Bangkok, Thailand, you can add that. Ho Chi Minh City, you can add that amongst a number of other places. You can expand that all the way up to 16 nights if you want to do that. And if you've never been to any part of Southeast Asia, I can tell you that these are literally some of the warmest, most hospitable people, I think, on the face of the earth, in addition to their great cuisine. So this is something you want to add to your list. Egypt is one of our newest products that we released. In fact, we made the announcement April of just last year, but it doesn't begin sailing until September of this year. Right now, we're already 80% sold out on our sailings that are departing September this year, going through the balance of this year, well into 2022. This is a round trip sailing from Luxor, 7 nights round trip from Luxor, but included with this are some pre and post night stays. So you're going to get 3 nights on the front end at the Four Seasons Cairo, a post night on the back end at Four Seasons Cairo. So this brings it all the way up to 11 nights. In addition to that, if you want to still spend some time in the area, we've got some great pre-options for Jordan for a 4-night package. You can do the UAE also for a 3-night package, or you can extend it into Israel as a post trip for 4 nights also. So lots to do there. I can tell you this is by far the most popular itinerary that we're offering right now. If we look at Europe, though, this really is where the majority of all of our departures sail. In fact, I'm going to highlight the Rhine and Danube because those are the 2 most popular rivers. The Rhine operating between Amsterdam, Netherlands, making its way down through France, through Germany, into Basel, Switzerland. You then have the full Danube River, but specifically the upper Danube, which operates between Budapest, Hungary, making its way through Slovakia, parts of Austria, some extensions into the Czech Republic, even though it doesn't technically sail through there, but we have some options to extend into there, making its way up to Vilshofen. So between those 2 rivers, including the Main River, which connects the 2, we probably have about 20 plus itineraries between those 2. And I'll again look to talk about those a little bit more in depth as I move to the presentation. But then you have the lower Danube, which operates from Budapest, making its way through some of those former Eastern Bloc communist countries. If we're looking at Romania, Bulgaria, then even the war-torn countries of like Serbia and Croatia that we have some stops into. And for this one, you can add some pre or post night stays even in Istanbul, as well as Transylvania, or Budapest on the northern end too. So keep in mind, every one of our sailings always has these pre and post options. And what makes them really nice is that our cruise managers will join you for those before and after the trip to kind of point you in the right direction, make some suggestions, lead you on some tours. But I always tell people what I think is even more important is that they're really building that rapport with you before you've even stepped on board the ship. Getting back to some other destinations, we've got a number operating in France. So we've got the Seine River. In fact, we added a new one. We have one that was that's Paris to Normandy, and we added one now called Impressions on the Seine, which operates round trip from Paris with some great pre and post nights in Paris, or a post extension for 3 nights over to Saint Malo. We also have the Bordeaux region, the Garonne River, the Dordogne River. What's unique about this area also on these waters is that you're on tidal waters, so you're not going through locks as you are in all the different rivers. So depending on the time of year, depending on what time of day you're traveling through here in the tidal waters, you're gonna get a very different perspective as you're visiting these different ports. We also sail on the Rhone River. Our Colors of Provence sails between Lyon down to Arles, France. And then a new one this year is Essence of Burgundy and Provence, sailing between Chalon-sur-Saône all the way down to Arles. This one has a pre-trip stay in Geneva for 3 nights, as well as 3 additional nights on Barcelona and the back end too. And then I can't forget to mention the Douro River. This one is also really popular, so popular that we added a second ship in 2018. There's a round trip Porto sailing for 7 nights, but there's also another one that goes between Porto and Vega de Torrón, with some optional extensions into Porto, going down to Lisbon, or over into Spain. You can spend some time visiting Salamanca, Toledo, as well as Madrid. So some wonderful options to choose from. But I wanted to, before I officially start moving through some other things, I want to give Deb and Debbie a chance to talk a little bit about their experience on AmaWaterways. So Deb, I think these are some of your slides. Maybe you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit from your visit with AmaWaterways.
Sure. So we got to sail on the Mekong with Ama. And first, I want to second what Richard said about a floating luxury hotel. That it's probably what I love the most about river cruising is that you unpack once and you wake up in a new city every day that is just full of unbelievable sights. So these pictures, the 2 pictures on the left, top and bottom, are from a monastery that we got to visit, and we received a blessing from the monks, and we got to just kind of learn about their daily lifestyle, which was really incredible. And then the picture with the statues is from, I'm sorry, I cannot remember which temple it is, but one of the temples of Angkor Wat in Siem Reap, which was pre-cruise. And then we got to visit a local school and the kids all sang a really fun song in English that they were learning. So it was really incredible. And Ama, I think, supports the school with school supplies. Um, and then the two
That's correct. Yeah,
pictures
and Jeff can take along
is
some
that
things.
right,
You're right.
Richard?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So they help them with school supplies and help with, I think, bicycles so that they can get back and forth. It was really a great day. And then a couple food pictures on the far right, and then the bottom picture of it looks like kind of three monkeys. It was me and two of the friends that we made. The lady in the middle it was her birthday. And when I found out that it was her birthday that day on our shore excursion, I bought just a couple of like bizarre little gifts. You know, we weren't really anywhere that I could buy like a gift. So she was opening her gifts, and that's why we're cracking up. But part of the fun of river cruising for Michael and I is the people that we meet, and we made such good friends on this particular cruise. We're still in touch with both of the couples that we became friends with on this trip.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Deb. Those are some beautiful pictures too. And I know that we have some from you also, Deb. You want to share what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so we did a round trip on the Seine from Paris out to Normandy and back. We did that in the spring of 2019. It's an amazing trip, and I think everybody should try to make it to Normandy at some point. It's an important trip to do. So I'll just run through some of the pictures. We went in the spring and it was a little bit colder or cooler. So the top left picture is us just sitting up on the deck, and they brought us blankets and drinks, and we just sat up there and watched the scenery go by for a while. It was great. We too made some really good friends on board, which I was not anticipating, but it just kind of happens organically. I have a picture in the bottom right of the bus that we took to get out to some of the smaller towns that we visited. It's a super comfortable motor coach. We could charge our phones the whole time, Wi-Fi on board, there's a bathroom, we had snacks on board, very comfortable chairs that would lay back. Even then we were socially distanced because each motor coach was maybe a half full because we could go different places, choose different city tours. That was a wonderful experience. And I have a funny story when we were in, or not, but it's a great story with our cruise director, who's a wonderful person, and we're still friends on Facebook. She lives in Paris. And another couple that we met had bought tickets to Moulin Rouge before the cruise, but they bought them for the wrong night. And they were doing the pre-cruise package with Ama. So when they found out that they had messed that up, they tried to get tickets for the correct night and they were completely sold out. So they contacted the cruise director, Melissa, and she knows the people at Moulin Rouge. She called them and got them a table. So just another example of how Ama completely has your back for the whole trip and doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, that's great. You know what? Like, that is not the first time I've heard that type of a story, Debbie, where one of the team members steps out in a big way to help a guest like that too. Thanks for sharing that, both of you. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about a state of the business, again, just to kind of answer some questions that I think everybody's wondering, right? So we actually did have a ship sailing last year. It sailed for just over 4 months, as a matter of fact. It was doing 2 separate round trip sailings from Cologne, Germany, 6 days and 5 nights. Now, this was chartered by a German company, so this was not for North Americans. So why am I sharing this with you? The main reason I'm sharing it with you is to let you know that we were actually in the game, right? We weren't sitting on the sidelines along with everybody else. When COVID came on the scene, we started putting plans together. We started doing our research, looking at what the requirements were going to be so that when we were able to return to sailing, we could protect that experience, but again, really ensure the safety of our guests and our crew. And we had that opportunity. We were the only American river cruise line that was sailing last year. And I'm happy to say that there were no incidences of COVID reported that entire time. In fact, a number of people booked a second and even a third sailing with us. Some of the things that we did, you'll see in this picture, this is one example where in the lounge area, we put up this nice plexiglass between the different sitting areas so you could still talk to people around you. You still get those great views, of course, looking out. And similar to if you've gone to a restaurant anytime recently, when you're walking through any of the public spaces or you get up to use the restroom, you wear your mask. But when you're sitting down, which is a majority of the time, you can take the mask off when you're sitting with the people that you're traveling with. So it's sort of that same experience on board the ship. In addition to that, what I would share is that, there's round the clock cleaning. The buffets have gone away, so it's more of just a menu that you order off of. We also didn't really think that we need to talk about this because it's been part of our ship design for years and years, but every public stateroom, or rather every stateroom in every public area, is built with its own individual air and heating coiling system. And what that basically means is that's air in and air out of those specific rooms. There's not air that's being circulated throughout the entire ship, so that's important to note. In addition to that, I would mention that we sailed with no more than 100 guests on any one of these departures, and even our short tours went out with no more than between 10 to 15 guests maximum. A couple of other things that we did, which were new and just trying to be adaptable to see things that would work, is that we offered exclusive transfers. So if it was a couple traveling, we provided a private sedan. If it was a family, we'd have, say, a private minivan. Again, just so they didn't feel that they were having to travel with other people. And then we also, for the very first time, we introduced a really nice in-room dining menu. So if you wanted to have an in-room movie night or dine on the balcony like we see in this picture here, that was also an option for you too. So again, all these things just to kind of see what made sense, how can we look to do some things when we completely go back with our entire fleet. So this gave us a really good opportunity to put a number of things into practice. And again, happy to say that nobody got sick and it was really quite successful. Now, in terms of those things that really set us apart, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight specifically the cruise managers. I think both Deb and Debbie mentioned them as well, really the entire crew, but your cruise manager is really like your VIP host for the entire time that you're traveling. They're incredibly knowledgeable. I think I mentioned before that they join our guests before and after the cruise for those pre and post trips, but to even put that more into perspective, if you recognize that they're with some clients beforehand, they're not on cruise, or with them before on land, then they're on the cruise, and then they may spend a few days afterwards. That ship that they just got off of has now departed. So what we do is we will typically send them to another ship, possibly another river. They're working with maybe an entire new crew. They're visiting different ports of call, different shore tours. So I mention all this just to really emphasize the knowledge that they really are taking in and can then share with all of our guests. So that makes them really special. We are the only river cruise line whose cruise managers join our guests before and afterwards. In terms of the cuisine, I think anybody would agree, whether you're just doing a short weekend trip or this is a trip of a lifetime, the food is going to play a really important part. You want to taste those local cuisines, things that are very regional, so we certainly are aware of that. We have 2 dining rooms on board all of our ships, with the exception of one ship, the AmaMagna, and I'll talk about her a little bit later. But otherwise, you have your main dining room, which I always describe as more of a progressive dining experience. Meaning when you're in Budapest, you're likely to find goulash on the menu. When you're in Vienna, you'll find Wiener Schnitzel on the menu, but you can still have that steak to go to. You can still have that chef salad if that's what you prefer. But we keep that kind of fresh as we're moving along in these different countries and different cities to bring those regional cuisines on board. In addition to that, we have the chef's table restaurant. So that would be the picture that we see up to the right here. This is a more intimate dining experience. It holds about 26 people maximum. You do make reservations for this, but there is no additional charge for this. This is included for all of our guests. It's this wonderful 6-course meal, but within those courses, you're going to get a choice. So it's really this expansive tasting menu is probably the best way to describe it. You get to see the chef and his team preparing the meals behind this glass window station, plating the food, bringing it out. You also get up to 4 different wine selections. They do some wonderful wine pairings. And this is located at the back of the ship, these wonderful floor-to-ceiling windows, so you get these really great views looking out as well. And it's my favorite experience, I'd say, on board. The drinks, we've received a lot of questions on drinks, rightfully so. Some folks have it as all-inclusive, but what I really try to make clear is that what I'm going to share with you is by design. So we include premium wines, premium beers, all the soft drinks at every lunch, at every dinner. If you want champagne mimosas for breakfast, we'll get that for you as well. And then every evening before dinner, we have our sip and sail cocktail hour where we'll have a signature drink, pretty much an open bar for the most part. In addition to that, though, the time after lunch up to that cocktail hour and then after dinner, drinks are not included. And we do that again by design. When you're in port, let's say Cologne, Germany, for example, We don't want you staying on board the ship for your free drink. We want you off in port, want you spending some time with the locals. You know, enjoy some time at that German pub in Cologne, Germany, enjoying some of that Kolsch beer. So those are some of the things that I really want to emphasize with that. And I will also mention that our servers are extremely generous. I'm sure the ladies would attest to that. They're topping the glasses off regularly. And then premium wines and drinks, just to, you know, share why I'm selecting that word, is because we're not going to say, here's your complimentary house wine, and then maybe charge you more for that more desirable wine that you'd like to really have. We're going to give you this nice regional wines all along the way. But shore tours, also a really big thing that I think differentiates us. We're going to include, I would say on average, 4 shore tours, in some cases even more than that. So we're really going to give our guests a choice. And then it also creates for smaller groups as you're going out on these different shore tours. Once again, we're not going to say, here you go, here's your complimentary city tour, and then maybe charge you for some other things. So we really give you a broad option of things to do. And then we also break it up into gentle, regular, and active. So the gentle would be, I always say, you know, if I were taking my parents on this, they can still get out and move around, but it's going to be a little bit slower, but they want to, you know, take in some highlights. That would be ideal for them. The regular is going to pick up the pace just a bit more, include a few things, maybe not avoiding some steps. And then that active one would be like a guided cycling tour. It might be a guided hiking tour. In addition to that, we also have, as if that's not enough, we have our late risers. So I'm the one that wants to get up early, have his coffee, and get out on some of those early departures. My wife is that one that wants to sleep in. She wants to enjoy her meal, sip on the coffee a bit longer, and maybe get a bit more of a mid-morning start too. So we have that option as well. So again, all these different things to choose from. Now, the bicycles, having mentioned the bicycles, yes, we use them for the guided cycling tours, but they're also there for just your own leisure and pleasure. If you just want to reserve them for a few hours, head out into town, go and explore, and come back and relax on the ship a bit, we make them available for you as well too. We got up to 25 bicycles on every one of our ships too.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify something a second. You said there were sometimes 4 shore excursions, and that's for each port.
Correct.
Right? Not for the length of the cruise. That's each day.
That's right. That's right. No, thank you for doing that. I didn't realize that may leave a little question, but thanks for clarifying. Absolutely. So every port of call, you're going to have on average about 4 different shore tours to choose from. Right. You know, the other part of that, though, since you brought up, because it's a really good point too, when we're stopping at some of these different ports, you know, I mentioned Cologne earlier, so I'll go back to Cologne. Cologne is one of those towns where there is so much to see. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to wake up, open this curtain, you're already going to be in Cologne, and we're going to stay late into the morning hours because there's so much to do. So you're going to have a lot of free time there as well, certainly enough time to take in all the highlights. Compared to maybe a smaller town where there's something that we don't want to miss, but maybe it doesn't require us to spend the full day. In those instances, we may hit 2 ports of call. So really the whole idea in putting these itineraries together is to make sure we don't miss any of those highlights. And that also includes daylight sailing, you know, so if there's really important things we don't want to miss, we're going to make sure that on certain stretches, we're sailing during the daytime hours also. The quiet box, this is something, again, we've been doing for a while too. And you can see from the gentleman standing next to the lady squatting down there by the vineyard that he's got a lanyard around his neck, and then it's got a quiet box. The quiet box you can actually charge within your stateroom, and then you can use your own earplugs if you like, so you don't have to use some that maybe somebody else is using. But it allows you to listen to your tour guide. You can see the microphone on her right there that she's wearing. You can be 40, 50 feet away listening to everything that's being shared still, not missing anything maybe where you're taking pictures, but I would say more importantly now, not have to be huddled around in a small group with that safe distancing too. So that's really important right now. And then the health and wellness. We're absolutely the leaders in health and wellness. I know that both Deb and Debbie are into their health and wellness. I'm sure they took advantage of this, where we have a dedicated fitness instructor on board every one of our sailings. So maybe they're doing morning yoga, morning Pilates, morning stretches. We really kind of allow them to put their own programs together. I've heard of some that do champagne yoga in the morning also. But these are certified instructors. This gentleman that we see here on the right side is not going to be doubling in a server's outfit later on for dinner that evening too. So again, they really put some wonderful experiences together. And then we also have a gym on board if you want to hit the gym as well. Making my way through this presentation, Ama Magna, I wanted to make sure I could include this, even if it's just kind of quickly to move through here, because this is a beautiful ship. It's the largest ship on the waters today. I was very fortunate to have been able to sail on this early, just about a year ago, just a little more than a year ago, as a matter of fact. It's on average about twice the size of a regular river cruise ship. But important to note is that we did not cram it with more staterooms. It was more about larger staterooms, more public space, more personal space, more amenities and features on board. The average river cruise ship at maximum capacity, I would say, holds somewhere between 180 to 190 guests. Alma Magna, by comparison, holds 196, so literally twice the size, but just a few more guests on board. It's got 4 restaurants that are all included for you. Just make reservations for the ones outside of the main dining room. So then we have the Chef's Table restaurant once again. We have Jimmy's Restaurant and Wine Bar, which used to be family style dining, but that's now going to be more of a set menu, just with everything that we're looking to adapt to. We then have the Alfresco restaurant. You see that glass ceiling at the top that can actually retract. And then those windows in the front of the dining area right there, those top windows will actually lower. So you get this wonderful offshore river breeze and just really adds to the whole experience too. And amazing dining at every one of these venues. Larger staterooms that I mentioned. So this is one of the most popular staterooms. This is the one that I stayed in, 355 square feet. It's got that nice separate sitting area. It's got its private balcony. We do, by the way, have technology in all the rooms with computers. You can leave your laptop at home, stay connected with the complimentary Wi-Fi. And from about the area that this picture was taken, just behind it is a separate area where there's going to be your closet area, a little kind of entry hallway, and then your own private bathroom, of course, too, with a nice double sink, a nice marble shower too. So the rooms are really nice in size. If you want to upgrade from there, maybe if you've done that ocean cruising and you want to see what river cruising is about, this ship would be great. We've got a grand suite at 474 square feet. Once again, its own private balcony. That furniture piece that you see right there at the foot of the bed, that actually has a television that can lift up if you want to catch some news in the evening or just get something a little bit late at night. And then you can even go higher from there. We have our owner suite, which is 710 square feet. It's got its own private bar, a much larger sitting area. It's nice little desk area, that separate bathroom area that's got double sinks. It's actually got a tub as well. And then this is just a look from the opposite side, looking out and seeing that you have the balcony there as well. So beautiful options here to choose from on Alma Magna. We've also got a cinema room on board. We've got a pool, this large deck area, a pop-up bar too. The last thing I'll mention is that even with the elevator, it seems like a small detail, but the elevator will go all the way up to the sun deck on this ship. Most of the river cruise ships, it only goes up to the level before the sun deck, and then you have to take the stairs up to the very top deck. So hopefully that gave you a really good idea of that ship. Now I want to talk about the Rhine River and really just feature on some of the highlights, because this is, as I mentioned, one of the most popular ones. It's a beautiful river. I had a chance to sail this last November of 2019, and really it was a bit colder that time of year, but the foliage was absolutely beautiful. It's early November, but this starts in Amsterdam, sails down to Basel, or you can do the reverse, which is what I did. Goes through 4 countries, a number of stops along the way. So just to kind of pull out a few, if we look at Amsterdam, this is a vibrant city. It's a busy city. There's a lot of energy here. The bicycles outnumber the population in town. Great galleries, great museums. And then, of course, all the beautiful canals and bridges and walkways, and just seeing the city at night all lit up. One suggestion that I would make, again, always consider that pre-trip, even if you're not doing it with us, just to allow you to get acquainted with the time. But in a city like Amsterdam, for instance, make those reservations in advance for some of those museums or galleries that you want to go to, especially the more popular ones. You just don't want to go all the way there and potentially not be able to get in for the time that you're visiting. As we leave Amsterdam, we would make our way into Cologne, Germany. We'd sail in the evening, by the way, and wake up in Cologne, Germany. We actually dock just to the right side of this bridge that we see right here, and it is seriously about a 10-minute walk to the front door of the Cologne Cathedral. The front doors of the Cologne Cathedral, you see right here, just kind of dominating the skyline. If you haven't had a chance to visit this cathedral, it is magnificent. I mean, every square inch of detail is just something that is amazing. It took about 632 years to build. They started construction in 1248 and took a number of years to complete. So that is something that you'll have time to visit. Some wonderful shopping here. There's a cycling tour, there's a Holy City walking tour, and then Kolsch beer, which is a tradition, of course, I would say anyways, if you're visiting Cologne, Germany. This is local to Cologne. I love my wines, but when you're Cologne, Germany, you definitely have to do the Kolsch beer. Once we leave there, the next highlight would be the Rhine Gorge. This, I think, is really kind of the star on this particular itinerary. This is a very leisurely day of about 4.5 hours or so that we're traveling through the Rhine Gorge. lots of history in this area. If you think the fact that it was central to the Holy Roman Empire, the 30 Years' War, the Napoleonic Wars. In fact, this castle that we see right here, Gothenburg Castle, had a lot of damage from the Napoleonic Wars and since been restored. It's now private residence, but this is one of about 40 castles that we're going to sail by, a number of different vineyards, beautiful little towns. But what really brings it all together are the cruise managers once again, because they're narrating and storytelling, giving the history on all these different places while you're being served some drinks, enjoying some hors d'oeuvres, getting a light snack, and just really taking in that amazing scenery that we're sailing through. A few other places that we'd stop at that I didn't choose to include here, all magnificent, but I wanted to make sure that I got Strasbourg, France in here. This town, I always like to kind of lovingly say that I don't think you could take a bad picture in Strasbourg if you tried. Everywhere you look, there's just something gorgeous. These beautiful half timber homes from the 16th, 17th century. It's known as the Venice to a lot of the local Alsatians in the area because of all the wonderful little canals. It's also home to a lot of the storks. There's a lot of storks in this area. In fact, there's a place called Orangery Park that you can pass by if you do one of our cycling tours or one of our walking tours. So not only will you see the storks, which are gorgeous, but you'll also be able to witness their nests, which are absolutely huge and just pretty remarkable to see. Another thing that I'd like to share, and this is not unique only to Strasbourg, but some other old towns throughout Europe, is that a lot of the old hospices, the hospitals, you can find wine cellars at these places. You can go in, you can do a wine tasting, you can purchase some wine, you can even bring it back to the ship. They seem to recognize that there's a certain health benefit with wine, at least in if you're not overdoing it, of course. But then again, you can bring those things back on board the ship. We get a lot of guests that are out purchasing different things as they're doing some different wine tastings or just whatever, but then you can share it with different guests. Enjoy it in the privacy of your own stateroom, pack it up safely and bring it home. But I love this town. It's actually beautiful for, during the Christmas markets. And then the upper Danube, just a few I want to highlight here, but some of those countries that we'll pass through, once again, you're going to be going through Hungary, through Austria, Slovakia, Germany, and then if you do that extension to go over to Prague for the post or pre-night stay, depending on which direction you're going, spend some time there, as well as Český Krumlov, which we would have as an optional, also from the town of Linz. But Salzburg is one that I wanted to highlight too. This is just a gorgeous town, home of Mozart, of course, until he moved over into Vienna. I think he was about 17 that he lived in this area. You have the beautiful fortress up atop, which just kind of looks over the city, some amazing hikes going up there, really wonderful cycling tour, some great cuisine, just lots of history. Just think of Sound of Music as you're traveling through these areas. Lots to see. And then even kind of just another little remark on the Christmas markets, the song Silent Night, Holy Night was actually created in this town here also. It was actually by a priest a number of years ago. So the next town that I wanted to highlight was Vienna. This just probably not enough that I could see on this town. This is certainly one of those cities that you just want to go out, explore, get lost. Again, we got those wonderful tours to choose from, but you're going to get plenty of free time. Think of the Viennese coffee shops that you want to go and explore, those cobblestone streets that you want to get lost on, the opera houses, the Habsburg Palace. I mean, rich in history, lots to do here. And then Budapest, which is where we would normally begin or end. Beautiful, beautiful town right here. It's a culmination actually of 3 cities. So Buda and Pest and I believe it's Obuda was the other one. But Budapest today, as we know it, and this area that we're looking at onto right now, where the Parliament building is, this is the Pest side, which is quite flat but very beautiful. Of course, there's that Parliament there as well. If you were on the Parliament side and crossing over, say, the Chain Bridge, which is this beautiful bridge connecting the 2 cities, the 2 areas, the Buda side is actually going to be a lot more hilly, more staircases, some wonderful hikes to enjoy also, and those wonderful points just kind of looking back out over the river. One of the things that we do in this town that I think is just really special is what we call the Illumination of Lights tour. And this is to witness the entire city, which is completely lit up, and we sail on pretty much the red carpet, right? Because the view from anywhere around the city is going to be gorgeous. But when you're on the river, there's nothing quite like that perspective, and be able to witness it like that is just really beautiful. So that I think is a highlight there. A couple of other things as we're looking to finish this presentation are our themed departures. So kind of keep in mind all the things that I was sharing with the onboard experience, with those different shore tours. This is one of those sailings, or these are those sailings that we put together where these are all in addition to the things that I've mentioned. So we might add a different accent on a couple things, but it's really that same experience. But what we do is we bring along a North American wine host who knows your taste buds probably better than you do, as a matter of fact, and is going to be giving some wonderful discussions on how the old world wines differ from the new world wines, how those Alsatian Rieslings differ from those Moselle Rieslings, and taking to some old, centuries old vineyards and different cellars. A remarkable experience. We get a lot of guests that may not really even be into wine, but they just kind of want to be a part of that whole experience. So we offer at least about 60 departures annually on these. So certainly look for those if this interests you. And then there is our holiday markets. And the first few words that I would say, think of just magical and think of sensory overload. I mean, from the smell of those hot, spicy sausage links to tasting the Glühwein. If you're not familiar with Glühwein, or it's Glühwein in Germany, it's Vinchata if you're in France, but you can make it with a red or a white wine. You'll normally add some spice to it, and maybe like some cloves or cinnamon and something citrusy, and you drink it heated, and it just feels like you're tasting Christmas, literally. But there's the music playing in the air, and there's musicians and things like that, and almost every Christmas market you're going to look up and you're going to see a church steeple, or you're going to see a bell tower like we see right here in this picture in Vienna. So wonderful experience. These operate officially 4 Sundays before Christmas, basically. So pretty much in line with the Advent calendar, but really special and certainly something you should add to your list. Special offers. We've got a lot of special offers. So I'm going to tell you right now, please remember to check with Deb and Debbie for some other things that aren't featured here. I didn't want to completely overwhelm you, but a few that I wanted to highlight. And Deb and Debbie, you'll forgive me for this. We talked about this earlier, and I didn't make this change, so that was my bad. But right here it says save up to $1,500 per stateroom. It's actually $1,000 per stateroom, so my apologies for that. But this special offer goes through the end of this month, so just a few more days to act on that, or you can choose free air, and this is on select departures. So please look into that. In addition to that, there's also a number of select departures where we can offer up to $300 onboard credit on 2021 and 2022 sailings. And special just for Deb and Debbie, for anybody that books by February 9th, we're also offering an additional $100 per person savings. Now, I did mention there's a lot of other offers in the marketplace right now. One that I don't have featured here, but I want to call your attention to, that ends in just a few days, also on January 31st, is a free pre or post package. That would be on some select departures. One of them would be complimentary stay at Lake Como. So this would be after one of your Rhine sailings. Another one would be a free stay down in the Transylvania area, also on our gems of Southeast. And then we also have Prague, which would be a complimentary stay on a number of our other, I'm sorry, not Prague. It is on our Taste of Bordeaux to spend some additional time down there, like in San Sebastian. So hopefully that was clear, but some other wonderful things to look at. And then hopefully the Christmas market enticed you just a little bit. We were happy to talk about that one. In fact, we wanted to share another presentation with you and ask you to save the date for Tuesday, February 9th. We're going to be doing this at 5:30. I think, did I get the time right, ladies? Is that 5:30 your local time, correct?
6:30 local time,
6:30
6:30
local
in Denver.
Okay, I got to get that right. Okay, so 5:30 Pacific time, but for your local time, it will be 6:30. Thank you for that. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about the Christmas markets and some of those things that I described in terms of the magic around those dates. That was a lot. I really appreciate you sticking around to listen to some of this. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in there as well. But I want to make sure you also had the contact information for both Deb and Debbie. It's not at your fingertips if you want to take note of it here, along with their phone number and email address. But ladies, is there anything that you might want to add or share or get clarification on?
This is Deb. I just wanted to share a quick little funny story about the Quiet Vox. Anyone who knows my husband will not be surprised by this, but he has a tendency to kind of just wander off. And so, we'll be in a town sightseeing and he sees something that he wants to take a picture of. He wanders over there and doesn't realize that the group has now moved on. So the best thing about the Quiet Vox is that he has realized that as soon as it gets staticky, he's gotten too far from the group. So that's when he'll start looking around and come and find me. So I kind of know that he'll never really get lost and have to make his way back to the ship on his own.
That's great. Great stories. That was wonderful. You know, I'm not seeing any questions, and hopefully it's just because most of the things were answered, or they're still just taking some things in. But again, reach out to Deb, reach out to Debbie if there's anything that they don't have the answers to, and they're very knowledgeable. They can certainly reach out to me. But is there anything else that that you may want to add, either of you?
Richard, I just want to thank you for all of the great information that you shared. I mean, I learned some new things, and that's always fun. And it got me super excited to get back onto a river ship, which I do hope we can do soon. I wanted to thank everybody for coming. We really appreciate you sharing a little bit of your time this evening with us. I know that we're all kind of zoomed out, but this is the next best thing to travel right now. So Debbie and I are working on putting together some group trips, and if there's a particular itinerary that interests anyone, be sure to let us know. There are great benefits for traveling as a small group of friends or family. So we would love to talk to you about it. And we hope to be able to see everybody in person soon and to be able to travel with you soon.
Wonderful. Thank
Richard,
you so much.
I have just a few questions, if
Sure.
I can.
Yeah.
So when is AMA planning on starting again in Europe?
It's a really good question. Thank you for bringing that up, because I know everybody's kind of wondering that. So I'll give you the short and a little longer answer. The short answer is that, you know, there's so many things at play right now that we just have to continue monitoring. You know, how are we going to be able to get all of our guests over there? What are the country requirements going to look like? You know, as an example, we're managing not only to what the EU puts out, but if Austria, as an example, says, you know what, we also want this to be managed to, we have to then take that into account and ensure that we're able to manage to those things. So there's a lot of things at play. Having shared all of that, I think we're finally getting to a place with the vaccine coming out, with the rollout, and just different conversations and people just kind of getting things in place that need to be put in place for all those steps along the way. We hope to be out as soon as possible, right? So our first departures technically are set to depart kind of mid to late March of this year. We haven't suspended them yet. I think it is rather likely that we're going to be have to, just because there's too many questions still. I can tell you though, where we're starting to see what I would probably say is just maybe consumer confidence, is where people starting to feel a little bit more sure of when they can travel, is like August and September. That's where we're starting to see more of the bookings come in for that time frame. But Rudy will tell you himself, we are set to go. Rudy is our owner, by the way. We're set to go. In fact, one of our other owners, Gary, said, listen, if we sail with just 20 or 30 guests and they tell us that we can go and we get the green light, we're going to go, even if it means that we lose money, because it's going to be great for morale, and we just want to get back on the water. So the very moment that we can set sail, we're going to be out there. So I hope that wasn't too long of an answer.
No, that's great. And then how is availability for much later in the fall and even into next year for booking cabins?
So we do still have availability. I would say most dates are not sold out. There might be some where the availability is getting scarce. So our Christmas markets are actually doing really well. But if you're a little flexible, chances are we can find something for you. But yeah, Q3 going through the balance of the year, and certainly into 22, we're definitely starting to see them fill up a bit more. But again, with some flexibility, we can likely find you something.
Great.
Mm-hmm. Great
Thank
question. Sure. So the other part, I don't know that we mentioned, but I'll mention again just in case we did, was that this is a recorded session. So if there's anything that you missed, anything you want to go back and hear again, I'll be getting this recording over to the ladies, hopefully no later than tomorrow sometime, in addition to giving them, just kind of recapping what the special offers are, that they can share that with you as well. But I just want to thank everybody for your time. Again, I really appreciate it. Hope you'll be able to join us on February 9th. We look forward to welcoming everybody back sometime real soon, but be safe, everybody, be well, and thank you once again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.